Everyone, have you ever noticed how the way people treat you can change based on how you look, speak, act, or even what you wear? It's something many of us experience, but we don't always talk about. Today, I want to shed light on how people treat you differently and why it matters. From the moment we walk into a room, we're being judged, sometimes fairly, sometimes not. Our appearance, social status, gender, race, or even the tone of our voice can influence how people respond to us. One person might be respected, another ignored, simply because of unconscious biases or learned behavior. The truth is, everyone deserves respect, kindness, and equal opportunity. But we live in a world where stereotypes still shape people's perceptions. The way people treat you can either uplift you or slowly wear you down. So what can we do? First, we need to be aware of our own biases. Second, we should stand up when we see others being mistreated. And finally, we must treat everyone with the dignity we all deserve, regardless of differences. Because at the end of the day, how we treat others says more about us than it does about them. Thank you. People judge based on appearance, status, or background. This is a reality that plays out in everyday life, often without people even realizing they're doing it. The way someone looks, their clothes, hairstyle, or even body language can trigger instant assumptions. A person dressed in expensive clothing may be treated with more respect than someone in worn-out attire, even if their character or intelligence is the same. The same goes for social status. Someone perceived as wealthy or influential may receive better service, more opportunities, and warmer treatment, while someone from a modest background may be overlooked or dismissed. Background matters too. Where a person is from, their accent, or the culture they represent can deeply affect how others treat them. This kind of judgment isn't always rooted in hatred. Often it comes from long-held stereotypes or unconscious bias. But the effect is still harmful. It creates a world where people are valued not for who they are, but for what they seem to be. This kind of surface-level judgment can lead to exclusion, inequality, and missed opportunities to connect with others on a genuine level. Everyone has a story, but when we judge based on appearances or background, we fail to hear it. We stop seeing people as individuals and instead place them into categories that limit their potential. That's why it's so important to look beyond the surface and remember that every person deserves to be treated with fairness and dignity, regardless of how they look or where they come from. Stereotypes shape how we're treated in society, often without us even realizing it. These stereotypes are deeply rooted assumptions about certain groups of people, formed over time through media, culture, history, and personal experiences. They can be based on race, gender, religion, profession, age, or even something as simple as someone's interests or hobbies. Once a stereotype is attached to a group, it tends to follow the individuals within that group, whether or not it's true. For example, someone might assume a young person is irresponsible, or that an elderly person is out of touch. A person of a certain race might be viewed as less competent or more aggressive, regardless of their actual behavior. These generalized beliefs are often not questioned, and that makes them dangerous. What makes stereotypes especially harmful is that they influence behavior, sometimes subtly and sometimes very openly. A teacher might expect less from a student based on their background. A job applicant may be overlooked because of a name that sounds foreign. A woman in a leadership role may be unfairly judged as bossy, while a man is seen as confident for the same actions. These stereotypes create invisible barriers that limit people's opportunities and affect their confidence. People begin to internalize these ideas, believing they must behave a certain way to be accepted or succeed. This self-limiting cycle holds individuals back from expressing who they truly are and from reaching their full potential. When society relies on stereotypes, it denies people their individuality and complexity. It's not just about unfair treatment. It's about the emotional and psychological toll it takes on people who constantly have to prove they are more than what the world assumes. Treatment can vary unfairly from person to person, even in the same situation or environment, simply because of differences in appearance, background, or perceived social value. This inconsistency is often subtle, but deeply felt. For instance, two people might walk into a store at the same time. one dressed in formal clothing and the other in casual worn-out clothes, and receive entirely different levels of service. The person who looks wealthier may be greeted with a smile, offered assistance, and treated with respect, while the other might be ignored, followed around suspiciously, or even assumed to be a threat. These unequal experiences are not limited to retail settings. They happen in schools, workplaces, restaurants, hospitals, and nearly every area of life. A student who speaks confidently may be praised and encouraged, while another who is quieter or has an accent may be overlooked, even if both are equally capable. In job interviews, one candidate might be chosen over another, not because of merit, but because of unconscious preferences for someone who looks or behaves in a certain way. This unfair treatment doesn't just create momentary discomfort. It reinforces a system where some people feel constantly undervalued or invisible. It can affect self-esteem and create lasting doubts in people who are consistently treated as if they're not good enough. Over time, these experiences can cause people to change the way they act or speak, just to be treated equally, forcing them to hide parts of themselves to fit in or be accepted. This kind of environment stifles diversity and discourages authenticity. It becomes a cycle where only certain types of people are seen as acceptable or worthy, while others have to work twice as hard just to be seen or heard. When treatment varies so unfairly between individuals, it signals a much larger problem, one rooted in judgment, bias, and a lack of empathy. It sends a message that value is conditional, rather than inherent in every human being. Self-awareness and empathy are key to change because they challenge the automatic judgments and biases that influence how we treat others. Many people don't realize that they carry assumptions about others based on things like race, gender, class, or appearance. These biases aren't always intentional. They're often learned from society, media, or even childhood experiences. But just because something is learned doesn't mean it can't be unlearned. Self-awareness is the first step. It means being honest with ourselves about how we think, react, and treat different people in different situations. It means asking tough questions. Do I assume someone is less intelligent because of how they speak? Do I treat people differently when they don't look or act like me? It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. Empathy takes it one step further. It's the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, to imagine what it feels like to be misunderstood, judged, or treated unfairly. When we develop empathy, we begin to see people as individuals, not just categories. We start to notice when someone's being excluded or stereotyped, and we become more willing to stand up and speak out. Empathy allows us to connect with others on a deeper level. It helps us break the walls that divide us and create more inclusive environments, at school, work, or in our communities. We stop seeing people as them and start seeing them as us. That shift changes everything. Together, self-awareness and empathy make us better listeners, better friends, better leaders. They create space for reflection and growth, and most importantly, they help undo the damage that unfair treatment causes. They remind us that respect is not something we reserve for a few, it's something we owe to everyone. We must treat others with fairness and dignity, because every person, regardless of their background, appearance, or status, deserves to be valued for who they are. Fairness means offering the same respect, opportunities, and consideration to everyone, not just those who fit into a certain mold or who we personally relate to. Dignity goes even deeper. It's about recognizing the humanity in every person, understanding that they have feelings, experiences, and worth that cannot be measured by external factors. Too often, people are treated according to social hierarchies, stereotypes, or convenience, which results in some being elevated while others are dismissed or ignored. This kind of selective treatment creates divisions and resentment. It teaches people that they are only worthy if they meet certain expectations or standards, which is both harmful and untrue. When we consciously choose to treat everyone with fairness and dignity, we begin to create a more just and compassionate society. We begin to build environments where people feel safe to be themselves, where they don't have to hide their identity or constantly prove their worth. It doesn't take much to show respect, a kind word, a moment of patience, a willingness to listen. These small gestures affirm a person's value and have the power to uplift someone who may be struggling. On the other hand, when people are treated with disrespect or indifference, it chips away at their self-worth and reinforces feelings of exclusion. Fairness means recognizing when the system is imbalanced and doing our part to level the field. It's not about treating everyone exactly the same, but about giving each person what they need to feel seen, heard, and respected. Treating others with dignity means looking beyond labels and appearances and connecting with the person underneath. It means refusing to let prejudice or social pressure dictate how we interact with others. It challenges us to hold ourselves accountable, not just in big moments, but in everyday interactions. Whether we're speaking to a friend, a stranger, or someone we disagree with, the way we treat them reflects our values. When fairness and dignity guide our actions, we not only improve the lives of others, we grow as individuals and help shape a more respectful, understanding world. People often change themselves to be accepted, which leads to loss of identity and emotional exhaustion. In a world where treatment is based so heavily on appearance, status, or fitting into social norms, many individuals feel pressure to adapt in order to be treated with basic respect or kindness. This pressure can cause people to suppress parts of their identity, whether it's the way they speak, dress, express their culture, or share their opinions. Over time, this need to constantly shape-shift just to be accepted can be deeply draining. It teaches people, especially at a young age, that who they truly are isn't good enough. So they start to hide their interests, silence their voices, and wear masks in different situations just to avoid judgment or rejection. The way someone is treated can have a long-lasting impact on their confidence and sense of self-worth. It may seem like a small moment, being ignored in a conversation, dismissed in a meeting, laughed at for an accent, or treated unfairly in public, but these experiences add up over time. When people are constantly made to feel less important, their self-esteem begins to erode. They may start to doubt their abilities, question their value, and hold back from expressing themselves or pursuing opportunities. What might be a brief or unconscious act for one person can stay with someone else for days, weeks, or even years. This impact is especially deep when the unfair treatment is repeated or comes from people in positions of authority, teachers, managers, peers, or even strangers who wield social power. If a student is regularly overlooked in class, they may start to believe they're not smart enough. If someone is constantly interrupted or talked over, they may stop speaking up altogether. These moments chip away at their inner strength and make them feel invisible, like they don't matter. And once someone starts believing those negative ideas about themselves, it becomes a barrier to their growth, relationships, and goals. Confidence doesn't come from nowhere. It's built through validation, support, and fair treatment. When someone is treated with respect and kindness, especially when they're being vulnerable or expressing who they are, it empowers them. It tells them they belong, that their voice matters, and that they have the right to take up space. That kind of treatment builds a solid foundation of self-worth. But when the opposite happens, when people are excluded, ridiculed, or judged, it doesn't just hurt in the moment, it creates emotional scars that can last a lifetime. That's why it's so important to recognize how our words, actions, and attitudes affect others. We often don't realize the weight our behavior carries, especially when we're not the ones on the receiving end. But for the person being treated unfairly, it can shape how they see themselves and how they navigate the world. Being mindful of how we treat others isn't just about being polite, it's about helping people feel valued, strong, and confident in who they are. And when we do that, we play a part in lifting people up instead of holding them back. People often carry silent struggles that aren't visible to others, and the way they're treated can either ease their burden or make it heavier. In our fast-paced lives, it's easy to make snap judgments about someone based on their attitude, appearance, or behavior, without considering what might be going on beneath the surface. Someone might seem withdrawn or distant, but perhaps they're dealing with anxiety, loss, or a difficult situation at home. Another person might appear angry or frustrated, not because they're rude, but because they've been mistreated repeatedly or are carrying the weight of discrimination or rejection. When we treat people harshly or indifferently without understanding their circumstances, we risk adding to their pain rather than helping to lighten it. Many people suffer in silence, smiling through personal challenges, pretending everything is fine, or hiding the depth of their emotional pain because they fear judgment or don't feel safe opening up. They may act like everything is okay, simply because they've learned that vulnerability isn't always received with kindness. In these moments, a small act of compassion, a kind word, a patient response, a simple gesture of inclusion can make a world of difference. It can be the one thing that helps someone feel seen and supported, even if no one else knows what they're going through. On the other hand, a dismissive tone, a rude comment, or being ignored can push someone further into isolation and self-doubt. Treating people with patience and understanding, even when we don't know their story, is a powerful way to build trust and humanity in our interactions. We don't always need to know the full details of someone's life to offer respect and kindness. In fact, the most meaningful support often comes when nothing is explained at all, just an instinctive recognition that everyone is fighting battles we cannot see. Whether someone is having a bad day or facing a long-term struggle, how we treat them can either be a source of strength or another obstacle in their path. When we pause and choose kindness over judgment, we create a space where people feel safer to be themselves, to heal, and to carry on. It's a reminder that while we may not be able to solve someone's problems, we can at least choose not to be another problem in their life. We can choose to be a source of comfort, of dignity, and of quiet understanding in a world that too often rushes to criticize before it listens. The way people are treated differently can have profound effects on their opportunities, both personally and professionally. When individuals are treated unfairly, based on factors like their background, appearance, or socioeconomic status, it limits their ability to access the same opportunities as others. This inequality can be seen in various areas, such as the workplace, education, or even in everyday social interactions. For example, a person from a marginalized community might face discrimination when applying for a job, not because of their qualifications or abilities, but because of their name, accent, or appearance. Similarly, in educational settings, students who come from lower-income families or who belong to certain racial or ethnic groups may not receive the same level of support or encouragement as their peers. This treatment, whether intentional or not, limits their ability to excel or even fully participate in society. The consequences of this unequal treatment extend far beyond the immediate moment of discrimination. Over time, it creates systemic barriers that prevent entire groups of people from reaching their full potential. Those who are consistently denied opportunities may start to believe that they are not capable or deserving of success, even if that belief is rooted in an unfair and inaccurate perception. This kind of internalized oppression can cause individuals to lower their expectations of themselves and accept less than what they truly deserve. This cycle perpetuates inequality because when certain groups are denied opportunities, they remain trapped in a cycle of poverty, limited access to education, and reduced chances for personal or professional growth. In contrast, when people are treated with fairness and given equal opportunities, regardless of their background or appearance, it enables them to unlock their potential. When individuals are recognized for their abilities and not judged by irrelevant factors, they are more likely to take risks, pursue their dreams, and contribute positively to society. Furthermore, when opportunities are made accessible to everyone, society as a whole benefits from a more diverse pool of ideas, skills, and perspectives. This inclusion creates a more dynamic, innovative, and prosperous environment where everyone has the chance to thrive, and where merit and hard work, rather than biases and stereotypes, determine success. The key to breaking the cycle of unequal treatment is not just awareness, but action. We must actively create environments where everyone has access to the same opportunities. This might mean advocating for policies that promote equal pay, equal access to education, and equal treatment in hiring practices. It also means speaking up when we witness unfair treatment and supporting those who are disadvantaged. When we choose to stand against discrimination and bias, we are not only helping individuals in the present moment, but we are contributing to a larger societal shift towards equality and fairness. Everyone deserves a chance to succeed, and it is our collective responsibility to ensure that no one is left behind simply because of who they are or where they come from. How people are treated differently can have deep and lasting effects on their mental and emotional health. The impact of being treated unfairly or with disrespect doesn't just end when the incident is over. It lingers, shaping how a person feels about themselves and how they approach the world. Repeated experiences of being treated as less than can lead to a range of negative emotional responses. People who are constantly overlooked or mistreated may begin to develop feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, and even shame. These feelings can snowball over time, affecting a person's sense of self-worth and their ability to engage with others in healthy ways. When someone feels consistently devalued or misunderstood, they may internalize these experiences, leading to long-term struggles with anxiety, depression, or a loss of confidence. In some cases, people who are regularly treated poorly begin to expect rejection or negativity from others, which can create a self-fulfilling prophecy. They might withdraw from social situations or avoid pursuing opportunities because they assume they won't be treated with respect or fairness. This withdrawal can isolate them further, preventing them from building meaningful relationships or seeking help when needed. On the flip side, those who are treated with kindness, respect, and empathy are far more likely to thrive emotionally. Feeling valued by others fosters a sense of belonging, which is crucial for mental health. When people are treated with dignity, they feel more confident in themselves, more capable of facing challenges, and more connected to the world around them. This kind of positive reinforcement creates a cycle of growth and self-assurance that benefits both the individual and the community they belong to. It's important to recognize that the mental toll of unfair treatment often extends beyond the individual who is being mistreated. Witnessing others being treated unfairly can also affect a person's mental well-being. For instance, when someone sees a friend, colleague, or family member being marginalized, it can create feelings of helplessness, frustration, or guilt. In these situations, the bystanders may feel torn between wanting to stand up for the person being mistreated, but not knowing how, or being afraid of facing consequences themselves. This emotional distress isn't confined to the person being directly affected. It has ripple effects that extend through communities, workplaces, and even entire societies. When we allow unfair treatment to continue without challenge, we all bear the emotional weight of that injustice. It is a shared burden that impacts the overall health of a group or community. Unfair treatment and its emotional toll are not just personal issues, they're societal problems that need to be addressed collectively. By creating environments where kindness, respect, and fairness are prioritized, we can foster emotional well-being on a larger scale. This starts with acknowledging that everyone, regardless of background, appearance, or circumstance, deserves to be treated with dignity. By working to eliminate prejudices and biases from our interactions, we not only help individuals heal and thrive, but we also contribute to creating a healthier, more compassionate society. It's essential that we not only recognize the emotional harm caused by mistreating others, but also take responsibility for changing our behavior to ensure that everyone has the chance to feel safe, valued, and supported. When we treat each other with fairness and respect, we pave the way for stronger, healthier communities where everyone can flourish.